Welcome, welcome, welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you do me a favor, please subscribe to whoever you're listening. Please subscribe to whoever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. As these playoffs are shaping up, we talked about matchups last episode. What I want to do this episode is I want to talk about the 10 players that are most important to their teams winning the playoffs. That doesn't mean that these players are, quote unquote, the best players on the team. It just means that these are the 10 most important players to their team success or to their team either winning or losing. And why do I want to start this? I want to start this because there are 4 series going on right now that is drastically different. From Golden State to Memphis, Miami, Philly, Phoenix, Dallas, and Milwaukee and Boston. There are multiple different storylines on each one. And you're starting to see, since, we're either 2 or 3 games into the series, that there are, yes, the team is the ultimate team, of course, but these certain players are extremely important to their team. And if they don't play well or if they don't show up, they're not going to win. That's just what we see. That doesn't mean that, again, that doesn't always mean it's the best player. The best player may be doing what the best player does. And it could land on this list, but there's also players that's going to be on this list that may not be the best players, but it's very important for them to play well for their team to win. Let's start with number 10. Number 10, I have Draymond Green. I have Draymond Green at 10 because Golden State currently, as we speak, is in a 1-1 series or tied up series with Memphis. And this has been like this probably since, 2015 when Golden State really started their run, that Draymond Green has been the heart and soul of their team. Draymond Green, while he is not the best player on the team, while he is not, considered a superstar in the league, Golden State would not be as successful if it wasn't for him. And you see it with their plus minus defensively on the floor. You see it with their plus minus offensively on the floor. You see Draymond Green's imprint on Golden State in droves when he's on the floor. And like I said, when you have, unfortunately now that Gary Payton II will be out due to the fracture and ligament damage in his elbow, Draymond Green's defense is ever more important, especially when we're talking about going against Marin. Now, I understand Draymond Green is not going to be guarding Marin unless he gets switched onto him or something. But Draymond Green is the conductor of the defensive orchestra that is Golden State. So Draymond Green, if he is not on the floor, if he does not play to the best visibility, especially defensively, especially as a leader, then Golden State has no chance of winning. And that has been shown throughout his career. I mean, look at 2016 when ultimately, the Cavs ultimately came back from a 3-1 deficit. A lot of that was due to Draymond Green getting suspended. Also, of course, Bogut going out with injury, Andre Iguodala, but the catalyst was mostly Draymond Green getting hurt. Getting suspended that game. So fast forward to now, Golden State depends and needs Draymond Green to play well, and for their deep, because they are now that Gary Payton is not playing, they are very thin defensively. So Draymond Green lands on my list at number 10. Number 9, I have Jaylen Brunson. No, Jalen Brunson is not the most important player on the Mavs. Is not the best player on the Mavs. But we're seeing Luca do what Luca does. He scores incredibly. He's a great scorer. He's a great He searches mismatches, and he just goes crazy. I think the first game he had like 40 something point, 45 points. Second game he had like 36, 37. Luca is who Luca is. And what we're seeing in the Mavericks Dallas series is that Dallas Phoenix series is Phoenix knows this. And Phoenix knows that there's nothing they can do offensively to stop or slow down Luca from scoring the ball. Well, what they can do is they can hunt Luca on defense because he's not really the best defender. And they also know, okay, we're going to let Luka's going to do what he does. We have nobody that can really stop Luca. Yeah, Miles Bridges is what I think finished second or something in defensive play of the year. Okay. He's not even there. Luca is punishing everybody that's on him. Nobody else can go off. Nobody else can go off. Spencer Dinwiddie maybe had a good game. I think game 2 he had a good game. But Phoenix saying we're not letting anybody else go score. That's when you need Jaylen Brunson. Jalen Brunson was incredible in the Utah series. A lot of that was due to the fact that Luca Doncic wasn't on the floor due to injury. But they need Jalen Brunson to be the Jalen Brunson that was in Utah. Now, I understand, and quiet as is kept, I don't remember who said it. But this is an original thought. It's not easy playing with a superstar, especially a ball-dominant superstar, because the ball has energy. And while I'm not saying that, the superstar only holds the ball and never passes, but Luka is a ball-dominant superstar. Back in his Houston days, James Harden was a ball-dominant guard. Kyrie Irving's a ball-dominant guard. It's hard to play with sometimes it's hard to play with a player like that when you need the ball in your hands as well. And I don't know, like I said, we saw the best Jalen Brunson when Luca Doncic was out. The problem is you need that same Jalen Brunson when Luca is in against Phoenix, because Phoenix has 2 guards right now that are going absolutely crazy. So number 9 for me is Jalen Brunson. And honestly, if Jalen Brunson does not come to play, if Jalen Brunson does not turn or get back to how he was playing against Utah, I don't think Dallas has a shot in the first place, but Dallas for sure does not have a shot. So I have Jalen Brunson at 9. At 8, I have Devin Booker. Phoenix is probably the most well-oiled machine in the league right now. I think it kind of feels like they took the loss from the finals last year and they use it for fuel. And you see when Devin Booker is not in the game compared to, it's kind of like I go back to my North Carolina and Baylor example. When people ask how Baylor in the March Madness play in the national tournament, people ask how was it that Baylor was able to come back from like a 7-point lead or 27-point deficit and ultimately force North Carolina to go into overtime. And I told them it's because when you have 2 guards on the floor that can create their own shot, that can create for other people, it is extremely difficult compared to when you have 1. Now, yes, Chris Paul, I've heard all we're hearing this week is Chris Paul this, Chris Paul that, which is true. Chris Paul will go down, in my opinion, as a top 5 point guard of all time. I understand people says, but what about the championships? Okay. But Phoenix looks drastically different with Chris Paul and Devin Booker on the floor. Chris Paul is about to be, I think Chris Paul's 37 at this point. People forget Chris Paul is pretty much the same age as LeBron James. And they're just 2 drastically different players. And yes, they're both intelligent. Yes, they're both future Hall of Famers. It's just 2 drastically different players. Chris Paul, while yes, he does have some incredible games, and he is probably one of the best players I've ever seen pace themselves in the middle of a game. as far as he'll look, I'm not going to say trash, but he'll look pedestrian the first 3 quarters. The fourth quarter, especially against the Mavs, he's been going crazy. But Chris Paul has gotten to a point in his career where he can't be the primary scorer night after night after night, which is why I have Devin Booker at 8, because when Devin Booker's going crazy and Chris Paul is going crazy, it's a long night for any team. So, while yes, Chris Paul, we'll talk about Chris Paul is going to land on this list, spoiler alert, but I have number 8, I have Devin Booker, because when Devin Booker's offense, especially because he's one of 2 players on that team that can really consistently put the ball on the ground and get their shot. So I have Devin Booker at number 8. Number 7, I have Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum is on that. I'm not going to automatically say he's there yet, but he's on that superstar status when it comes, like the trajectory he's on. While yes, Jaylen Brown had a great game in Game 2 of the Milwaukee-Boston series. He had a great game too, and he was a big reason why they won that game. But if you look at every single win, especially in the playoffs, dating back to the first series against Brooklyn, most of the games that they win, Jason Tatum has a great game. Jason Tatum is tasked with doing the impossible at this point. And that is matching the energy, matching the pace, matching the effectiveness of Giannis. Yes, you have Jaylen Brown, but Jason Tatum is the one they're going to look to. And Jason Tatum is their best player. Jason Tatum is their star. So you're expecting a star to match a star. The one reason why Brooklyn didn't win the series is because KD, for whatever reason, did not match the play of Jason Tatum consistently in the series. I think he did like the last game, maybe the first, but that's about it. Jason Tatum has the task to match the energy, to match the production, match the defense, match the offensive scoring of Giannis Antetokounmpo. And what does that mean? People, what does that mean? Does that mean that Jason Tatum has to go in and match score for score Giannis? Like if Giannis scores, Jason Tatum has to score? No. Does that mean if Giannis gets 4 blocks or gets an incredible block, Jason Tatum has to do the same thing? No. Does that mean that if Giannis has 5 or 15 fast break points, Jason Tatum has to have 15? No. What that means is Giannis's impact on the game, or his impact on his team winning, has to be the same impact that Jason Tatum has. Doesn't mean that he has to do the same thing as Giannis, but he has to have the same impact, whether that's Giannis will impact defense and scoring. Jason Tatum can do the same thing when it comes to scoring and assist, or scoring and defense, shutting down another player. Because one thing that we saw in Game 2 is Boston did a good job containing containing the rest. You know, and that's why I said that Chris Middleton is a huge loss for Milwaukee, and that's why I'm kind of on the fence between who's going to win this series. When Giannis does not go off, nobody else really does, and that's big. So I have Jason Tatum at 7 because they need him to match, whether that's match the energy, whatever. They need him to be a star. They need him to be the star that we saw, that we've seen, of course, rise since he's been in the league, but a star that we saw in this first series against Brooklyn. So I have Jason Tatum at 7. Number 6, I have Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, he has such an infectious personality that spreads throughout the Miami Heat. Now, Miami Heat has always had a culture of, tough nose, this, that, and the third. When they had D Wade, when they had Shaq, when they had LeBron, Chris Bosh, they've always been the tough nose team, the team that's going to get down and dirty, the team that's going to do this, is going to do that, going to do whatever it takes defensively to win the game. And nobody really embodies that in the entire league, honestly, more than Jimmy Butler. And yes, Tyler Hero, congratulations for winning Sixth Man of the Year. He's been incredible. Yes, PJ Tucker defensively, when we talk about his defense on James Harden, when we talk about his defense when he gets switched on to Trae Young in the first series, he's been incredible. Yes, Bam Adebayo has been incredible. He's been a Swiss Army knife for Miami. Victor Oladipo has come on and been incredible, and shouts out to Victor Oladipo. We know his long journey back from injury, but none of this is, especially with Kyle Lowry being out, none of this is possible without Jimmy Butler. Now, I'm not saying that Jimmy Butler is most important. He's not sixth on my list because of his offense. He has had some incredible offensive games this playoffs, but it's mostly his imprint on the entire team, whether we're talking about personality, whether we talk about defense. Jimmy Butler has been that important. And this team, even with Kyle Lowry being, if Kyle Lowry if the roles were reversed, of course I don't wish any injury on anybody, but if the roles were reversed, meaning Kyle Lowry was playing and Phoenix and Jimmy Butler was not, I think that Philly would have a better shot than they did with Jimmy Butler playing in Kyle Lowry. And that's no offense to Kyle Lowry at all. Kyle Lowry, even though I may not like him personally, it is what it is. But Kyle Lowry is still a good, especially defensive guard. But you can just look at the identity of Miami and just see Jimmy Butler throughout. And Jimmy Butler is so important. Again, Miami is so good that their go-to scorer is a sixth man, and that is Tyler Hero. That should tell you everything you need to know about Miami. Jimmy Butler is so important. If Jimmy Butler does not come to play, especially defensively, and has that ruggedness that permeates throughout the team, then they're not going to win. So I have Jimmy Butler at 6. At number 5, I have Stephen Curry. Now, again, this is not a list of the best players on the. Let me not say that, because this is not a list of like who has been best to worst. This is a list of who's the most important, and this is why I have Curry at number 5. Curry ultimately is the best player on Golden State. That's no debate. Curry will go down as arguably a top 10 player ever. Depends on what happens throughout the rest of his career. If he does absolutely nothing else for the rest of his career, he, in my opinion, will go down as a top 15 player. So ultimately, Golden State runs as Steph Curry runs. Now, Steph Curry, at the end of the day, again, you are your best player, and the team is their best player. And when Steph Curry has a great game, usually Golden State has a great game. Now, I know this is kind of cheating, but this is kind of a blanket statement. This is kind of a number 5, with Curry being number 5. This is kind of a blanket pick. What do I mean by that? While yes, I have Curry at number 5, I really mean the three-headed guards for Golden State. So while yes, Curry is the best player out of all that, and you're going up against a Memphis team that is young and that can match you guard for guard as far as what one thing that Curry lacks, one thing that Curry has, Ja Morant might lack, but one thing Ja Morant has, Curry might lack. Same thing with Klay Thompson and Desmond Bane. Same thing with Jordan Poole and Dillon Brooks, even though Dillon Brooks is suspended for Game 3. Curry has to be the Curry that we know him to that we know he can be. The Curry that can go 6 for 10 or 7 for 10 from three. The Curry that you can look up, and there's a difference between loud and quiet points. Let's look at Steph Curry and let's look at KD. KD can have a quiet. Let me define this before I say this. What I mean by quiet. KD can have a quiet 35 points. And what does that mean? Yes, you're going to feel yes, you're going to notice let me say this. How do I put this in a way that can understand? You can look up, you're looking at KD, he's having a great game. Like, KD's having a really good game. You can look up and like, wait, KD has 35? That is a quiet 35 to me. And I'm not saying quiet to disrespect like the magnitude of a 35, but it's like, oh shoot, KD has 35 points. Where did he score 35? Like, that is what I mean when I say he's able to have a quiet 35. Now, of course, KD can also have a loud 35, but KD, to me, he is the ultimate quiet point getter. And when I say ultimate quiet point getter, that's no disrespect to the points. That's no disrespect to him. That's just saying he gets it so effortlessly at times, and that you're just marveling at him. You don't realize just the volume of which he is scoring. You don't realize, KD has 50 right now, or he has 48. And then when you look back, it's like, I only remember like 5 shots. And he has 45. That's what I mean by quiet points. There is no such thing as quiet points for Steph Curry. Steph Curry will come three steps past half court, pull it. He'll break somebody down, go past them, lay the ball up. That Curry has a loud 35 points. And along with Draymond Green's defense, Golden State fuels off those electric points. But this is why I also said that number 5, which is, I cheated on my own list. Number 5 is more of a blanket statement. Because let's talk about Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson has struggled mightily in this series with Memphis. He struggled mightily with defensive. Now, I understand that it's you can't expect someone that has missed 2 years to lower extremity injuries to come back and be the same defensive player that they were. Honestly, it's crazy to think that someone can come back and be the same player they were offensively as well after missing 2 years due to, ACL and Achilles injuries. But that's what they need from Klay. Not saying they need the 37 points in a quarter. Not saying they need a 61 points with on 11 dribbles. They don't need that. What they need is they need Klay Thompson to hit open shots. And Klay Thompson has had a lot of open shots, and he has missed a lot of open shots. Now, I do think that a lot of that can change, and he can play a lot better. Now, he has had some good games. He has had some 30-plus point games in the playoffs. But they need that against this Memphis team. And he has not been able to provide that. Now, that could just be because he is playing at home or he was playing away. Maybe that changed when he's at home, but Golden State needs that because while Curry can have a great game, Draymond Green defensively can have a great game. You need somebody else that can walk with them. You need, and it goes back to Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole, he has been getting torched defensively. The whole team has pretty much been getting torched defensively. But if you can combat that with the scoring, and now he didn't do. Jordan Poole did a great job game 1. Didn't do a great job game 2, which is why the series is tied at this point. But number 5, I have Curry as most important players to their team's playoff success. But I kind of have that as a blanket as far as Curry, Klay, and Jordan Poole, especially with Gary. And who would have thought that Gary Payton II would have been so important? But especially when we talk about his defensive impact, he is huge. So they're definitely going to need them. Number 4, I have Luca Doncic. Now, we talked about Jalen Brunson earlier. Luca Doncic, You can't look at the sheer volume of scoring that he does. You can't look at the sheer impact offensively that he has. I mean, I think he averages more points in the playoffs than Michael Jordan does. Like, that's just who Luca Doncic is. You can't contain this man. But as much as we praise him, which rightfully so, he deserves the praise that he gets. Luca has to be better defensively. It is clear as day that Phoenix is searching for him. I have never seen this before in my entire life. I've seen it once. I've seen it once where a team will look for a superstar. I've seen it twice. A team will look for a superstar or look for a team's best player to destroy them on defense. I've seen this 3 times in my life. I saw this. I'm seeing this now with what Phoenix is doing with Luca Doncic. I saw this in 2016 when the Cleveland, shouts out to Cleveland, they would, anytime somebody had the ball, whether that was LeBron James, whether that was Kyrie Irving, they would call for a ball screen. Whoever Steph Curry was on, they would call for them to come do the ball screen. They would try to torch Steph Curry, which they were. I mean, after the 3-1 lead, I mean, there was one game, both LeBron and Kyrie both had 41 that game. Like, they were torching Curry. And 2011, I believe it was, LeBron James' first year. Now, in Miami. Now, yes, they didn't win the championship, but when they were playing Dallas in the finals, every single time LeBron had the ball, he wanted Chris Bosh to set the pick, so Dirk Nowitzki was guarding LeBron. It's very smart, very intelligent. But those are the 3 times where I can blatantly see, they're going at the superstar. So back to now, while yes, Luca Doncic has been incredible and he can't really do much better offensively. He can limit the turnovers, but he needs to be better defensively. Now, I understand that it's probably, it's outside of maybe Giannis and Hakeem Olajuwon. Foreign players aren't really known, especially when we talk about like the Manu Ginobilis and Luca Doncic and Nikola Jokic, and boom, that's another one. Oh, thank you God. That's another one. Last series, anytime a guard had the ball, anytime anybody that can put the ball on the ground had the ball for Golden State, they would say, if Nikola Jokic is on him, kill him. That's exactly what it was. So 4 times. That was good. But yeah, the foreign players outside of, like I said, Giannis and Hakeem Olajuwon, they're not really known for the defense, so I don't know if that's just going to change. It's definitely not going to change overnight, but Luka has to be better. Everyone from Chris Paul to from Chris Paul to Devin Booker to Miles Bridges, hell, even Cam Johnson, like they need Cameron, like Payne. Luka Doncic has to be better, but Luka Doncic, he's number 4 on the list because there's just a sheer amount of volume of scoring that he brings to Dallas. You can't really match that with anybody. So have him at number 4. Number 3, I have Chris Paul. This is kind of the same way I talked about Devin Booker earlier. Chris Paul, just the way Phoenix looks completely different with Devin Booker on the floor and with Chris Paul on the floor and Devin Booker off the floor. They look drastically different with Devin Booker on the floor and Chris Paul off the floor. Chris Paul he's their leader. Chris Paul is, of course, their veteran presence. Chris Paul is one of the greatest point guards of all time. He's able to control the game. He's able to control his team's intensity needle. He's able to control the team, of course, because he orchestrates so much offensive movement that can't be duplicated but with anybody else. And Phoenix is firing on all cylinders when Chris Paul is playing incredible and Devin Booker. And while Devin Booker is great for, being able to put the ball on the ground and create his own shot, he's not the best at orchestrating an offense for other people. Well, insert Chris Paul, who is one of arguably the greatest to do that. So I have Chris Paul at number 3. Phoenix will not win a championship this year if Chris Paul is not on the floor. That's just how it is. That's how it is. And I think they understand that too, because we saw what they look like. Even though they were able to maintain, which was in the regular season, we saw what Phoenix looked like with Chris Paul off the floor. So I have Chris Paul at number 3. Number 2, I have Ja Morant. Now, there's been arguments that's gone on recently on social media, on sports debate talk shows and stuff. Is Ja Morant the best player in the series? The Golden State Memphis series, is he the best player? Yes. Now, we're just talking about current. Shouts out to Jalen Rose. He said it. We're talking about this current season and this current time. Ja Morant has been the best player in the Golden State Memphis series. I mean, he's averaging 40 points a game, like in this series. Ja Morant, this team goes. I understand that people are going to say, well, they were like 20-2 without Ja Morant in the regular season, bro. And I don't know if you've noticed, but Memphis, how drastic the change is from when Ja Morant comes off the court and on. Like, it is, oh man, it just feels, I know they're the youngest team pretty much they're the youngest team in the playoffs, but they play like it. It's even with Ja, they play like it, but Ja gives them the shot. Ja is the one player on Memphis that nobody on Golden State has an answer for. I mean, Gary Payton II slowed him down a tad bit, but no, like I said before, Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. Ja Morant's not even close to the shooter that Steph Curry is. On the flip side, Ja Morant is one of the most athletic guards we've ever seen. Steph Curry is nowhere close to athleticism. So Ja Morant, there's nobody, because Klay Thompson, he's not fully back from, of course, being the Klay Thompson of old. He has not been able to keep up with Ja Morant. If Jordan Poole has nightmares at night if he gets switched on to Ja Morant. Like, there's nobody on Golden State that can slow down Ja Morant when he gets ahead of steam and when he gets going. In fact, that's why you see if Golden State loses, right? Because Ja Morant, say he has 45. But out of those 45, Ja Morant hit 10 threes. You're just going to shake his hand and be like, hey, that was the game plan. It is what it is. But if Ja Morant has 45 points and 30 of them points is off layups, then you did something drastically wrong. So, that Ja Morant has been that player for this series that nobody has an answer for. Not a player. And when you have Jaren Jackson Jr., he's been scoring well, but he's just has had some of the dumbest fouls I've seen. And he fouls so much, kind of like what Colin Anthony Towns was doing in the first series. He just has some of the dumbest fouls I've seen. Desmond Bane with the whole back injury. It seems like the back is hurting him and hampering him from being the Desmond Bane that should have possibly won the most improved player of the year. Outside of that, Dillon Brooks, he's been god awful this entire time. Now, again, he's suspended for game 3, but games 1 and 2, he wasn't good at all. So, and actually game 2, he only played like 3 minutes. So, Ja Morant, this team, if Ja Morant does not have a good game, it's over with. And I am curious to see what happens when they go to Golden State. I'm still going to pick Golden State due to the experience, but what I saw the first 2 games, I mean, think about it. Game 1, Memphis had a shot to win. Ja Morant missed the game-winning layup. Game 2, it was called, the officiating was kind of crazy, but Ja Morant had 47, and they win by 6. So I'm interested to see how they play going to Golden State, but I have Ja Morant at number 2 because looking at this Memphis team, especially from the first series and now, with how experienced and some of the players, when you're looking across and you see Steph Curry, when you see Klay Thompson, when you see Draymond Green, when you see this new and improved Jordan Poole, you need someone to come correct, and that has been Ja Morant. So I have Ja Morant at number 2. And number 1 is Giannis. I mean, Giannis is the outlier in this entire equation, is the outlier in this entire NBA at this point. There's nobody, at least at this point in the NBA, there is nobody that can match what Giannis does, the impact that he has, not only on his team, but on the game in general. I mean, we've seen him. We talk about loud and quiet points, right? There is not a player on this planet that has louder points than Giannis. When we talk about dunking on even a simple dunk to Giannis, he just makes it look crazy. Like, there is nobody that has louder points than Giannis. And as we saw, Game 1 of the Boston-Milwaukee series, Giannis had a great game. I think he had a triple-double. I think it was the second career playoff triple-double, I believe. And they won. They won quite handily, honestly. Second game, he was forcing more. He didn't play well at all. They got destroyed. So, number 1, and it's kind of number 1 in a far gap, is Giannis. It's not just due to talent. It's especially with Chris Middleton being out, you're asking a lot more, especially on the scoring aspect of Giannis. Now, don't hear me say that and think, oh, they never asked Giannis to score. No, I'm not saying that. Or don't hear me saying that Chris Middleton is a better scorer than Giannis. I'm not saying that either. I will say that he is a better shooter than Giannis, and he's a better player at, that mid-range turnaround shot or mid-range pull-up or three-point pull-up. But Milwaukee, the only reason why they have a shot, in my opinion, to beat Boston is because of Giannis. And if Giannis, like we saw, if Giannis does not play well, they lose. So that's my list of the top 10 most important players to their teams. Now, you're probably asking yourself, Jay, aren't you missing like maybe 1 or 2 players? You mean Joel Embiid and James Harden? I know what you mean. Joel Embiid has been arguably the best player in the league this year. And I do think it is important for him to play, especially with the orbital fracture. Now he did come with the max, so, we'll see how that goes. And I feel like for the last few episodes, I've kind of been piling on James Harden, which is why I didn't want to do that this episode. But you would be completely blind if you're not looking at what you're looking at from James Harden and think to yourself that this is not the same James Harden that we've seen. He's clearly lost a step from, I don't know, his injuries. I don't know what it is, but he's clearly lost a step. And going into the series with Miami, the only shot that they had, in my opinion, was if you had if you had James Harden playing at his top notch. Now, not exactly Joel Embiid, because I think that they would play Joel Embiid sort of the same way that Phoenix is playing Luca. As far as, hey, there's nothing we can do with Joel Embiid. There's nothing. I mean, Bam Adebayo is like 6'9", 6'10", so he's not doing anything with 7-foot Joel Embiid. We're not doing anything. It's just everybody else. And I saw what Miami did to Trae Young, and I think that they were going to do the same exact thing with James Harden, because, again, we're seeing a diminished James Harden. I don't know what it is, but that just is. So the reason why he's not on my list, which he could very well have landed on my, he could have been an 11, but I don't think they would have won with or without. I think that Miami is just, yes, we talk about the flashiness and how, of course, Joel Embiid for Philly, but I don't. Miami is a great team, and I don't think that there's nothing that James. I think that this is the James Harden that we're seeing. We've seen this James Harden since he went over to Brooklyn, so I don't think we're getting much else. We're not really changing much else. So that's my 10. Let me know who you guys feel is on your 10. So, yeah. So the WNBA started last night, and I'm excited for, this is the 26th season, I believe. I'm excited for the WNBA being back. I'm excited to hopefully my Washington Mystics go on a run and of course, win this year's WNBA championship. But we've heard, going into every season, there's always a wave of players that get waived. Top players in the not top, but very key players. Like this year, it was Tia Cooper. She got waived. There's a lot of players that get waived. I think about 40-something players got waived this year. And you hear people like Chiney Abumake going on and say that there's no way that top draft picks don't land on or don't make it on rosters. Like, that's crazy. Like, think about that. Think about, there's a possibility where the number 10 draft pick on the team doesn't even land on the team, like gets waived. That's how little of an opportunity that you have in the WNBA. So what I wanted to do, since we're on this list, train, I wanted to give my top 5 ways to improve the WNBA. The WNBA is supposed to be a showcase for like the NBA. The NBA is a showcase for the best basketball in the world. There's nowhere that you can go in this world and definitively say that this league is better than the NBA. The NBA is the top notch, is the top of the top when we talk about stardom, when we talk about talent of basketball players. And that's what the WNBA is supposed to be. But we see time and time again that that's not ultimately the case. You have really good players and leagues that treat their players better overseas. You see players that are hesitant to want to come back to play for the WNBA because they may get paid more overseas. They may get more notoriety in overseas. So the WNBA is not the place, that really showcases their stars as much as they should, or really showcases themselves as the best basketball league for women. It just doesn't do that. So here's the 5 ways I think that they need to improve. Number 5, I think they need to rework the college to WNBA rules. For some reason, which I understand. with the amount of teams that are in the league, and hell, people that are getting drafted still don't need, some of them don't make the roster. But you have to stay, if I'm not mistaken, you have to stay in the college. If you're a woman basketball player, you have to stay in college for like 3 years before even considering going to the WNBA. Now, when we see people like Paige Becker, when we see players like Aaliyah Boston, when we see players like Zia Cook, these players are good enough to be in the league after their freshman year, but they're not able to. So I think that'll bring. Now, that rule, of course, is going to go alongside some of the other rules that I have, or other improvements. Let me not say rules, improvements. That improvement is going to coincide with some of the other improvements. But yeah, there should be no reason why, if you can see a player is clearly ready to play in the WNBA after their freshman year or maybe their second year, why that is such, again, I get it. I get why it's here now. But that is such a an old way of thinking. Like, these players are the best of the best. Like, that basketball is at its all-time high when we talk about talent. Basketball is so good. These kids are so good, whether it's men or women's basketball. There is a man that has one hand, one arm. People know who he is. Has one arm that is damn near possibly can make it to the NBA. That's how cold he is. That should show you the skill level that the league, that basketball is producing at this point. There is a woman, I don't know her name, so shouts out to her, but there's a woman that, and I understand it's different, of course, for professional and non-professional, but there's a woman that goes to local gyms, post up a camera and be killing dudes. That shows you how talented, and that's not even a professional. That shows you how talented people are playing basketball at this point. So there should be no reason why, if you see that a college athlete that is a young lady is good enough to be in the WNBA her freshman year, there should be no reason why she can't go after her freshman year. I understand why, but let's continue on my list. Number 4 of 5 ways to improve the WNBA is marketing. For the life of me, people talk about my podcast, right? Every time I go out and ask, yo, how do I improve the podcast? 9.5 times out of 10, somebody tells me marketing. Somebody tells me you need to market yourself better. You need to market the podcast better. You need to be marketable. I can say the same thing for the WNBA. Now, they've been better leaps and bounds over the years. Now, I think that a lot of that is probably due to the last year was, of course, their 25th anniversary. But they just need to do a better job marketing, man. There should be no reason, and I get that, and I respect them for the fact that it's more accessible in a lot. You can watch a WNBA game on Facebook Live. You can watch a WNBA game on Twitch, I believe. You can watch a WNBA game on Amazon Prime. But just do better marketing. This is the same problem that I have with the MLE in baseball now, or MLB in baseball. Now, it's not as bad. It's not as bad as baseball, but market your players better. Mark the fact that a lot of people don't understand. When you look at, let me see the team. All right, let's just talk about my team. Let's look at the Mystics. Why don't we highlight Elena Deladon more? Why don't we talk about the Sparks, the Nabumake sisters? Why don't we highlight, of course they highlight Liz Cambage because of her infectious personality, but you just need to market yourself better. Like, what? I know that this usually happens after the NBA season or towards the end of the NBA season, but usually after, but why don't you have Wednesday night games on TNT or stuff like that? I just feel the marketing can be better for the WNBA. You need to it doesn't always have to be, marketing is definitely financial, but it doesn't always have to be huge things. It's just small things. Market yourself better. Shouts out to people like Highlight Her. Shouts out to people like Monica McNutt, Christine Williamson, Tykera Carter, Janae Rochelle, Ari Ivory, Jasmine Brown. These are some of the women that are front line trying, always hyping the game up, always putting it forward. Well, there should be more people. It should be more. The WNBA should, in my opinion, do a better job on the social team. They just do it. I'm not saying they're not doing a good job. Shouts out to y'all, but just do a better job marketing, in my opinion. That's number 4. Number 3. Now, this was an argument that was kind of big throughout the summer, especially when we talk about the New York Liberty. Improve the travel for every team. There should be no reason why. Again, we talked about this a while ago, but there should be no reason why WNBA players, superstars in the WNBA, takes regular flights if I if I went from Washington to California, there's a chance that I could be on the same flight as Elena Deladon. That should never happen. Like imagine being on the same flight after a game against the Knicks. Brooklyn is going to play Golden State next. Imagine being on the same. You looking right, and you see Kevin Durant on your flight. Just imagine that. This is the top of the line. This is supposed to be the top league, and you don't have private planes. Now, again, I understand money, but I think that the owner of the New York Liberty was willing to pay for everyone to get private planes. Like improve your league. Now they've done great jobs. They've done an incredible job. And shouts out, before I keep going, shouts out to the improvements that the WNBA has made. You know, with the whole pregnancy being out over the years, with no more one and dones, because that was crazy. Shouts out to they're expanding the season to 36 games, I believe. Shouts out to the improvement that they are making, but they need to make more. And one of the biggest ones is upgrade the travel. Again, there should be no reason why a WNBA player has to pay out of their own pocket to upgrade to first class. That's crazy to me. Let alone be on the same flight as people like me. That's just crazy. So that's number 3, man. Number 2, and shouts out to Chinea Bumake for pretty much saying it, they needed to develop a G League. Now, I understand the cost and everything. I keep saying I understand, which I do. But, I mean, change ain't going to be made until change is made. Like Janae said, there was like 40-something players that got cut this year. That's literally not on the team. And unless you go play overseas or get picked up for like a hardship contract, you're not going to be playing. So why don't you develop a league so they can go? Why don't you develop a G League so they can go and play, and then you can pick them up? Like, say someone gets hurt and you can pick them up, or so you'll know that they're playing. Like, why don't you get an affiliate? Why don't you get a WNBA affiliate? Why don't you get WNBA affiliates like the affiliate for the Philadelphia 76ers is like the 66ers or something like that. Like, just develop a G League. It can be, I mean, I think the WNBA did like the Athletic Unlimited, like that league or something like that. Something like that. It's just there should be no reason why top draft picks get cut and they're searching to figure out what the hell I'm gonna do next. That's crazy. Not to mention the fact that you can create more. So you develop a G League, kind of like what the NBA is doing. Some people just bypass college and now go to the Ignite. You can do the same thing. Paige Becker, say you don't think she's ready, you can draft her after a sophomore year or a freshman year and have her play in the G League for 2 years. Like, there's just ways that you can do this. That's all I'm saying. And number 1, and that's to me the obvious one, number 1 is expand to either 16 to 20 teams. I think there's 12 teams in the league right now. Meaning, I don't know if people are good, geographically, but that means that every state does not have a team. Now, I'm not saying that it just go from 12 to 30. I'm not saying, or 12 to 50. I'm not saying, well, of course not 50, but I'm not saying go from 12 to what the NBA has in 30 or 12 or what the NFL has at 32. What I'm saying is expand it to 20 teams. Again, it goes, number 1 and number 2 are kind of like hand in hand as far as why I'm saying that they should be here. There should be no reason why top talent, 40-something women gets waived from a team. Usually in the NBA, if you're not ready, if they don't feel you're ready, if they don't feel like you're good enough to make the final roster, they send you to the G League. The G League is made up of a lot of people that maybe didn't get drafted but tried out for the G League, or players that aren't really ready for the league yet. But they just don't waive them and just say, Go figure it out. They try to develop them. Well, that goes with number 2, develop a WNBA G League. But number 1, you wouldn't have as many players getting waived if you had 16 to 20 teams, not just 12. And on those 12, you hold like 13 roster spots. What sense does that make? So I want to see that now. I'm not saying the WNBA is not flourishing. That's not what I'm saying. The WNBA has grown leaps and bounds since the days of the Monarchs and teams like that, the Storm and stuff. The league has done leaps and bounds. The league is usually front and center when it comes to social justice issues, when it comes to racial issues. The league usually does a great job at stuff like that. So shouts out to the league. I just feel that and people feel too, there needs to be change in the WNBA, especially when you see top talented people that you just drafted not make the team and get waived and get cut, and now you got to figure something out. It's just not right. I just want to see the league flourish to the best of its ability. And while, yes, some of these initial plans, like the G League, like expanding to 20, 16, 20 teams, there might be a loss at first, especially when we talk about money-wise. But when you look, people love basketball, bro. Hell, did you see the women's national championship? How they had like a sold out, a packed arena. In fact, the whole tournament, people were interested in women basketball. People are the WNBA championship when it was Chicago and I think the Aces. Like people are invested in stuff like that, man. So, or Connecticut. I think it was Connecticut. No, it was somebody, but I know Chicago won. It's just. I understand that you may take a loss the first few years, with the G League, or you may take a loss the first few years expanding to a 16 to 20 team league. But overall, it's going to help the product. And overall, after those losses, you're going to see huge gain, in my opinion. So that's my 5 ways to improve the WNBA. So. Moving forward, I'm not going to stay on this long. Antonio Brown's comments on Colin Kaepernick. Shouts out. Antonio Brown was just on a podcast. I think it was called the Cigar Podcast. Shouts out to them. And he said, Colin Kaepernick, he was comparing himself to Colin Kaepernick, saying there's no comparison. Nobody messes with Colin Kaepernick. He took the deal. He took the deal and left. I be in these trenches. I be in the streets, this, and the third. First and foremost, I think it's always funny that people always refer to when they talk about Colin Kaepernick and not being in the league anymore. A lot of people refer to that deal that he came to an agreement with the NFL. The funny thing is, the only people that know about the whereabout or that know about the particulars in that deal is Colin Kaepernick and his team in the NFL. Nobody knows what the hell was on the deal. Nope. I think people are assuming that the deal says, hey, you sign this deal, you go away, never come back. I think people are assuming that, and that's not the case. Actually, I don't know what the case is. Nobody knows what the case is except for Colin Kaepernick and the league. And all that we know is that he signed a deal with the league. To Antonio Brown, bro, Colin Kaepernick was blackballed out the league. You literally took your stuff off and got to go midway through a game. You guys are not the same. You say Colin Kaepernick's trash, this, that, and the third. You and Colin Kaepernick are in the same position, not in the league. So, I'm not gonna really just talk about that much more. I don't agree with it. I think one thing that kind of irritates me is, again, I kind of try to mind my business, but one thing that kind of irritates me is where's the people that were like saying Antonio Brown was right for doing what he did, when he was on the Bucks, taking off his clothes mid-game and then, peace signing out. Who were those people that are saying, the people that were saying he was right? Where are the people? Where y'all at? The people that usually, which is funny, they usually are loud when they feel an athlete is under marginalized or, marginalized, which I understand. Black people, we want to defend our own, especially when they feel like they're being attacked. I get that. And I'm not here saying that we as black people or anybody has to project when somebody's wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we are here to bash people. I'm not saying that at all. But there has to be someone that says, hey, yo, AB, you got to chill. And there could be someone, he's just not listening. But at that point, we have to stop putting him on platforms to allow some of the rhetoric that he spews to be put out there. Doesn't mean that we don't support an African American. It just means that we are not going to let him spew whatever the hell he wants to spew on your platform. That's just what it is. So, but that's all I'm gonna say on that. Lastly, my unpopular opinion of the day. I told you guys last episode that I'm going to do unpopular opinion of the day every episode. Last episode, I kind of torched Larry Bird and Bill Russell. This unpopular opinion of the day is kind of focused at leagues in general. So we just came up on the 20th anniversary of the famous Allen Iverson press conference where he uttered the famous line, "We talking about practice. Practice." Now, that will go down in history as one of the most iconic press conferences ever. But it will go down as one of the most iconic press conferences ever because you had a superstar pretty much saying we're talking about practice. Those words will never be more poignant than when Allen Iverson said it. Now, I will come on, people that know me know Allen Iverson is a huge influence not only in my life but in the basketball community as a whole. In fact, I will argue that he is the most influential player ever to touch a basketball court. Hell, I even have a tattoo of Allen Iverson on my arm. Not of his face, like Allen Iverson jersey. But why is that press conference so important to me? That press conference shows beautifully how much we really don't know about athletes outside of what they do. Stars in general. But because this is a sports podcast, I will keep it to athletes. We don't know much about athletes outside of the sport they play. And what I mean by that, and why do I talk about this press conference that happened that happened 20 years ago? Because it wasn't the fact that he was talking about practice. It was the fact that his closest friend just recently passed away. The Philadelphia 76ers just lost. So the last thing I want to do is talk about freaking practice. That's the last thing I want to do. Especially, and it shows, and he clarified it after. Like, yo, my man's, walk a mile in my shoes. My best friend just died. We got bounced out the playoffs, and y'all are talking to me about I should be better in practice. The star player. So it really shows how much little we don't know about players. I mean, outside of their sport. Hell, this is coming off of, think about what we've seen recently. Just how tough it was to watch the Michael Beasley interview. Shouts out to Ryan Clark in the Pivot podcast, but how tough it was to watch the Ryan Clark interview. Or watch Cam Newton when he was on More Than an Athlete, pretty much pleading that he feels he deserves a job. So what is my unpopular take? And it shouldn't, and to me, it shouldn't be that unpopular, but I feel that sports leagues should make it mandatory. Should make it mandatory to have for their athletes to have to go to therapy sessions. Because Michael Beasley says something that I've heard before, but it ringed differently when he said it. You can't people that make $10 will never understand people that make $1 million problems. He says something to the offense, to close to that. Which shows we don't know what these athletes go through. I mean, think about it. Kevin Durant, there's no way in heaven or hell you can walk down the street, look at Kevin Durant, and think, is that Kevin Durant? Like he will stick out like a sore thumb. LeBron James sticks out like a sore thumb. Even though he's shorter, Steph Curry sticks out like a sore thumb. Patrick Mahomes sticks out like a sore thumb. You don't know the scrutiny they deal with. You don't know what they deal with at home. You don't know what they deal with in the front office. You don't know what they deal with on the teams. You just know that you expect your players, you expect your favorite player to go out there and perform at the top level, which I get. You're a fan, which is short for fanatic. But I think leagues should make it mandatory. And they should provide it too. They should provide every league, every team, every league should pay for mandatory therapy sessions. Because I can't imagine somebody that comes from the trenches, has never had, that's experienced poverty their entire life, to go from having nothing to having millions of dollars. Do you know just how many people that affects? That affects them. That affects the people that they think are their friends. That affects their actual friends. That affects the family members. That affects the family members that they ain't really seen in years. That affects a lot. That affects their community. On that one person. Do you know how heavy that is? You ever done a presentation? Like a school presentation? And get no money for it, but a school presentation, and you understand how heavy that is on you? Or if you're at work, wherever you work, shouts out to your job, and you have to do a work presentation, and you understand how heavy that is on you. Imagine waking up one day having nothing. I'm not gonna say nothing. Having nothing. Let's just say nothing. Then you turn around and have millions, and everyone knows you have millions. What is the famous line on lottery ticket? I'm broke, nigga. I'm broke. But you have the power to change that, Kev. That is such a heavy burden. And it really shows outside. I mean, I don't know nobody knows outside of their inner circles what these athletes go through. Which is why I turn it back. Shouts out to Allen Iverson, my personal sports hero, my personal sports influence. He is the reason why I am in this sports realm. He's the first person. Shouts out to my mom for getting me Allen Iverson Celebrity Classic when he used to do the baseball games up at the Bowie Bay Sox Stadium. I was able to go backstage and he was able to sign some autographs for me and a whole bunch of kids. Allen Iverson changed my life. But that also we don't know nothing about this man's life. We don't know nothing about any athlete's life. And while we be killing, I mean, Stephen A. Smith been going crazy about Kyrie and Ben Simmons. And this isn't me attacking attacking Stephen A. Smith or attacking anybody that has some negative to say about athletes. But let's just remember that we don't know them. We know what they do, but we don't know them. Just like if you roll up at McDonald's, I know you as far as you making me my 10-piece chicken nugget. But I don't know what you're going through. I don't know why you're working at this job. I don't know what you struggle with. I don't know what you go home to. I don't even know if you go home to a home. And we have to keep that same energy with stars, with athletes. And because of the burden that every athlete, especially every athlete that makes an absorbent amount of money, has to go through, I think, in my unpopular opinion of the day, is sports, and I think it's unpopular due to the fact that a lot of people view therapy. Personal note, man, therapy was probably the best thing I've ever done in my life. Therapy helped me in so many ways. Therapy was so important to me, especially having to figure things out in life when I had no direction of how to do it. Yes, I'm a very spiritual person. I know I trust God. I believe in God. But on the surface level, therapy was the most important and the best thing I ever did in my life. And I don't have nearly the problems that athletes go through, especially athletes with an exorbitant amount of money that come from come from a family or come from a environment that is poverty stricken. So I think that leagues should make it mandatory and provide therapy for every athlete. Make it mandatory. You got to have a therapy session, whether that's online or whether that's in person, at least once a week. And if they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. But at least you are doing. There should be no reason why you see Michael Beasley struggling and crying on a podcast. There should be no reason why, to this day, we still talk about Allen Iverson's press conference when he said, you talk about practice, which it came on. This is the 20th anniversary. Yet and still, nobody talks about the fact that he also said, "Oh, his best friend just died." Leagues should make it mandatory, leagues should provide mandatory therapy sessions for every athlete, from the best player to the bench guy. Leagues should provide mandatory therapy sessions weekly, and that's my unpopular opinion of the day. There you have it, man. That's been today's episode. I appreciate you guys. If you want a Popular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve, joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Support the podcast. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to wherever you're listening. Please subscribe to wherever you're watching. I'm trying to get the algorithms going. I'm trying to get more people to listen and watch the Unpopular Podcast, and I can't do that without you guys' help, so I appreciate it. And I hope you guys enjoy. I will see you guys again on Wednesday. And until next time, much love.